Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here on twitch.tv/LCS, twitch.tv/Academy. And if you're watching over on YouTube, the LCS channel as well, for the Proving Grounds, powered by Verizon tournament here between the best Academy and the best of North American amateur here. My name is Mark Rafa Alexander Arambide, your host for today's best of 5 epic series between 100 Thieves Academy and Evil Geniuses Prodigies, and I've got some handsome fellows on the desk as well. We got Chilling Walk and Joshi, who will be calling the matches today, and we also have a very special guest, Prussian, who, you know, if you don't know Prussian, he was the analyst for Wildcard, who unfortunately did make an earlier exit in the tournament. You know, send prayers and love to the Wildcard boys there for them. But Prussian, you know, I want to get your thoughts immediately to start off the day. How have you been enjoying the overall scope of the tournament so far?
You know, getting eliminated a little bit on the earlier end of the tournament feels pretty bad, but on the bright side, I get to hang out with all of my bros in the desk here, and I get to watch some great League of Legends today. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, Prussian, we have a banger series, as we already pointed out, between 100 Thieves Academy and Evil Geniuses Prodigies. But first, before we get into the matchup between those two teams, we got to take a look at how those teams actually got here. And so I do believe that we have some good old B-roll to show for you. And I was going to start throwing to you, Will, because you actually casted this match with Icarus.
Oh, no, actually I casted the one with 100 Thieves against EG Academy. But this one was a hype one, Mark, because this one was where game one, GG Academy, they came out swinging. They're looking really good. Of course, you take a look at the bottom side, Prismal, kind of popping off right now, but then game two was kind of a slugfest, I'm being honest. It was getting real close, but eventually 100 Thieves, you'll see it on screen right now, they make a swing back in, and they kind of make a gigantic cleanup at the end of it. Hop into game three, though, when it comes up, it was honestly, it just looked like 100 Thieves just kind of having their way with Golden Guardians when we hop into it. But these guys were looking really good. Game two, Tenacity was popping off, Kenvi was popping off, and then when going to game three, it was the one where it was Kenvi on the Kane, by the way. When I was casting him, he wasn't looking too hot. But in this game, he was on fire with the Monte on that Zoe, and they were looking real clean. You see a change from game two to game three. 100 Thieves just kind of flipped the script, and they managed to take it home.
Absolutely. And one of the things as well when you were going through this game that I didn't see in the previous game before, you know, Kenvi on this Kane having a tremendously better time going through that scaling pick and 100 Thieves being able to protect it. Meanwhile, Evil Geniuses Prodigies, their last match that they played was against Dignitas Academy, and for them, Prussian, you know, one particular player stepped up that you weren't expecting to have such a pop-off game in that series.
That's true. Game three, we got Aspects Azir. 11.6 is what this tournament's being played on. Azir's not really that hot of a champion, but Aspect just pulls it out of his pocket, completely performs. Just Shurima shuffling everyone into the backline and taking over the game on what's mostly a secondary carry for EGP, but Aspect showing up big in this series particular, really showing what he's got to offer.
Yeah, I was rather impressed with how all of the, EG Prodigies were actually able to play throughout this entire series, because we got to see that they're not just one or two players like we oftentimes paint them out to be. We typically highlight players like Tomio and Chiro for them, and Aspect kind of sits in the background, but allowing Surdy and Aspect to really take a little bit more of the forefront through this entire series gives us a lot of hope as we start looking towards today's series.
Now, for between Evil Geniuses Prodigies and 100 Thieves Academy, you know, before we get into the bread and butter, and just looking at these two teams overall, where the strengths lie, where the play styles really shine, you know, we've come to find that they're actually very similar in play style here, and it's one of those things where it then really begs the questions like, okay, well, if both teams have better, you know, the same play styles, then who does it better? And already, before we get too ahead of ourselves, you know, we do need to take a look at the lower bracket and see the journey that they took to get to this place, you know, as we are rounding out the very last losers quarterfinal matchup. Yesterday, we did see Evil Geniuses Academy, the sister team of Evil Geniuses Prodigies, win the slugfest against TSM Academy 3-1. They will be awaiting the winner of this match in the loser semifinals. And then, of course, you know, over on the upper bracket, we already know that C9 Academy and No Org are waiting to play out their winners finals matchup over on Friday, I believe, on on Thursday, the 22nd. And then the loser of that matchup will then play the eventual loser of whoever EG Academy decide to play against. It's got a lot of stakes in the cards, but once we have the winner from this series, gentlemen, we're going to have the top 4 ready and defined. And I want to go to you, Prussian, once again, because when it comes to looking at these teams, I know I was about to throw to you, but I do remember that before we get into the nitty gritty for both teams, we actually got Samsung Fast 5 coming your way, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got some hot stats. First, in the mid, fastest mythic item, Yumbi, Jojo Pion, and 5 Fire. Bot lane, fastest 10k gold, King, Cody, Sun, and Spawn. Support, fastest item, Transform, Chime, Joey, and Yursan. Josh, I'm going to go to you for this one because this is featuring Tenacity when we're looking at top lane's fastest 100 CS mark.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to note that he is the fastest to 100 CS on the Samsung Fast 5, simply because we've been able to see kind of the duality of Tenacity. He's one of the few top laners that is able to effectively play both the strong side and the weak side, and we've seen plenty of opportunities for him to show off the Renekton alongside Kenvy's Nidalee, and I think this is really speaking to that. When you don't have a lane opponent because you're always killing them or pushing them out of the lane, it's very easy to get to this 100 CS mark relatively quickly, and notably, he's doing it before some other major hitters like Hanser, like Viper, who we typically look at as some of these really dominant early top laners.
And then when we're looking at the jungle here, Prussian, I know one of your beloved players, Panda, does make a mark here.
That's true. I mean, in just 3 seconds off, prolific speedrunner, Panda, aka James Dingster. I mean, he's the GOAT. He was the leader in Wildcard, so I feel good still seeing him up there. There's a little vestige still left in there.
I definitely appreciate getting some love, even though we're not going to be seeing him for the rest of the tournament. There's another name in there, Babip, who did make his exit after getting knocked out by EG Academy. But now, as we go back to the main series at hand, ladies and gentlemen, I do need to bid adieu to Chilling Walk and
Already?
Joshi. Yeah, I know, guys.
Wow.
I enjoyed
Wow.
having you on the
We
desk.
just got
but
here.
We just
I
got
know,
here,
but guys, don't worry. You're going to call all the action for the rest of the series. So you've got plenty of lungs to be able to use for those. So don't worry. We'll see you in a bit. But me and Prussian are not going to have some...
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Don't take it too hard, guys. You know, we'll see you later. We'll see you later. But now, Prussian, for me and you, my friend, now we have a little bit more one-on-one time. And I really want to get into your mind because now we're going to have to break down these two teams for the viewers at home. We already gave a little bit of a preview. 100 Thieves Academy, Evil Geniuses, Prodigies. Very similar in play style, but the difference lies in how much more cohesive of a unit 100 Thieves Academy is when playing around Kevy versus Evil Geniuses, Prodigies when playing around Tomio.
That's true, and while a lot of people might look at the bottom lane matchup between these two teams, sporting very two strong bottom lanes, I'm more geared towards the jungle, because while I think Tomio and Kenvy are both fantastic players, I think that the way that these two teams interact with jungle are a little bit different. Tomio, we see a lot of the Lilia, we see a lot of the Nidalee, maybe even some Olaf, a lot of these junglers with more early game agency, whereas Kenvy is sort of unique in the regard that he can play for a jungle counter pick, things like Kayn versus the Lilia or Nocturne as we saw in the LPL. And while these junglers are good into Lilia, they do come with a disadvantage that they're very prone to being outpaced in the early game by the Lilia or just the faster clearing junglers throughout the early game in general. But I think 100 Academy do a fantastic job at facilitating Kenvy through picking lanes that getting priority in their matchups. Think something like Demonte's Orianna, which is a pick he's been quite effective on. And these picks and their facilitation of priority throughout the early game allows Kenvy to scale up quickly, and it allows Kenvy to play for jungle counter pick a lot of the time in these matchups that we don't see very often.
Yeah, and it goes to show that, you know, obviously Udyr and Hecarim are always running the show when they're up on the table, but it might be in 100 Thieves Academy's best interest to try and ban those junglers away, because for Evil Geniuses Prodigies, they've come to show that they are very reliant on Tomio being able to have access to some early agency early on, but also being on something that is low econ, such as those junglers, because you get the chem tank, and then that's all you need. Then you can just give all your resources to Shiro, who, as you've pointed out, is the true wild card for this team.
That's true, no pun intended. Shiro is absolutely cracking it throughout this tournament. He is the absolute player to watch on EGP in my mind, but that's not to take away from players like Tomio, Aspect, Mist, and Surti. It's just that Shiro has just been absolutely very impressive. Another thing that I'm thinking about as far as draft goes, as you mentioned, I do believe 100 Academy are starting on blue side this series, so I'm interested in seeing if they're going to take away one of the Hecarim and Udyr and then pick the other one, because since Tomio hasn't been playing these weird sort of counter picks, I think that it's going to be sort of suffocating towards EGP, especially in the draft phase. I think that they will be very limited as far as what their bans can be, since Kenvi is much more creative in what he's capable of playing as opposed to Tomio. But EGP might surprise us, and I'm not willing to just write them off that they're going to be pigeonholed. They've had a lot of time to prepare for this game, and I want to see something different from them.
Yeah, they definitely had more than 24 hours, a solid 36, 48 hours, which is, still, the more time you can get to go over every single strategy and every option is going to be, that much more in their favor of Evil Genius's Prodigies. And I do believe we're going to be heading into draft soon. So, I'm going to kind of TLDR and, restate for all the fans at home. Watch for, Udyr bans coming out from 100 Thieves, we're actually going to get Evil Genius's Prodigies on blue side. So this actually changes up a little of the draft priority. But already, check this out, Prussian. We have a Thresh ban coming in, as well as a Tom Kench taken away from Poom.
That's true. So I was actually wrong. 100 Academy are on the red side of this game. But, I mean, Poom's Thresh is absolutely astounding, and it has a 100% pick ban in the LPL playoffs so far. So really, I'm not surprised.
So 100 Thieves Academy, check. They even opened up with Gnar and Camille ban, and something that I want to kind of pick your brain about is that this Camille pick, we didn't suspect that it would actually be that much of a prevalence, as it's kind of fallen out of favor. But like you said, Prussian, Hecarim being locked in for Tomio, that's one of those high agency junglers.
Absolutely correct. I mean, against Surdy, you absolutely have to ban the Camille. He is the best Camille likely in this tournament as far as relative to where his other picks are at. And Hecarim is a pretty typical first pick, and we have the Kai'Sa locked in alongside the Rel. So the 1-2 bottom lane for 100 Academy, I'm interested to see, with the Thresh being down, are we going to see the Alistar right away from EGP? That's a champion that Mist is very good at, and not only in laning phase, Mist has been very good at influencing the map, especially relative to his form in Scattered Ground Circuit last year. What are you thinking as far... Oh, man.
All right, well, tell me about this one, Prussian, because we know that Shiro's has been a monster on the Samira, but is it that dangerous to pick the Samira this early on in the draft?
I mean, with a only 1-2 from the bottom lane, I think that Samira is pretty exploitable elsewhere on the map. She's very vulnerable to CC, even something like Victor. If EGP lock the Orianna here, it's most likely going to be the Victor on 3 from 100 Academy. The Chaos Storm, I'm wrong, but the Chaos Storm can absolutely silence the Samira ult, and we're seeing just the handshake Hecarim Udyr as always from the junglers. So I'm interested in seeing these EGP bans. Are they going to ban for mid lane? Because it's almost certainly going to be a mid lane pick from 100 Academy on 4, and then an R5 counter pick on top lane. So I'm wondering if they're more scared of what Lure is going to respond, if what Damonte is going to pick into the Orianna, or if they're going to play for the top lane.
Well, you did mention that Alistar would be a fine option into the Rel. 100 Thieves Academy already snuffed it out and taken it away. This Nocturne pick, though, knowing that Tomio has already locked in the Hecarim, then they were suspecting that Surdy has been putting some time in this Nocturne top lane.
Yeah, Nocturne's going pretty crazy. I'm not going to lie. Nocturne, he is irritating. It is very hard to beat him in the laning phase. He's really good at side laning, and on top of that, he shuts down your side lanes through his ult. And we see the Victor ban, so I'm curious to what Damonte is going to pull out here. Maybe something like a Zoe is what I would expect, but there's still other options available.
We had a little bit of a conversation about, whether Seraphine would make it through the draft phase. And you've pointed out that it's kind of fallen by the wayside as people have been able to find options into it. Still, Seraphine's not going to be finding any play today. Syndra is going to be the answer from Damonte.
I hate this pick, man. As a mid laner, this champion feels so bad to play, and it's into Samira too. And I do not like playing Syndra into Samira because she spins and all your balls go bye-bye and your E goes bye-bye and everything is doomed. So I'm not a big fan of this pick, but I understand why they pick it because it can get priority into the Orianna throughout the early game. So maybe they're looking for a more early game oriented composition around the top side. But either way, I'm not a big fan of the Syndra response into the Orianna.
Yeah, you know, if you throw the unleashed power, but all your balls disappear into the world, whatever the wind wall that's Shiro has, that's a hell of a vasectomy here on the Rift. But for 100 Thieves Academy, we have Tenacity with the answer is going to be Aatrox, and we know this Gragas is going to go over to Surdy. I do want to point out here that we have, you know, double magic solo laners here for Aspect and Surdy. Now, more than likely, we've seen a lot more success with the tank-oriented version of Gragas, and you already have enough burst from Aspect. You know, would you concur that we should see Chem Tank from Surdy this game?
I think going double Chem Tank might be a little bit redundant, but obviously it's a really broken item. I would be okay with seeing a little bit more magic damage since this 100 Academy lineup is a little bit more squishy, and it makes that disengage a little bit easier from Tenacity, a little bit more threatening since you're throwing that more powerful explosive cask. So I'm erring to the side of having a more damage-oriented Gragas, especially with the front line of Hecarim and Nautilus, but only time can tell. I'm in.
Right. And then when we're looking at these overall compositions before we get into game one here, you know, looking at 100 Thieves Academy, you have quite a bit of crowd control that can set up Luger's Kaisa for success. Do you still give 100 Thieves Academy the edge with their composition, or are you still not a fan of the Syndra into the Samira?
Not a fan of the Syndra, and I actually favor the bottom lane matchup of EGP a little bit just because I don't think that when her Academy past Udyr have too many good answers into immediately shutting down Shiro's ultimate. Rel is okay, but I'm not seeing it. I'm giving this one slightly to EGP. Blue side is so strong.
All right. Well, we should be going to game one very soon here, Prussian. And I know we didn't really talk about predictions for the overall series. We just kind of jumped right into the draft phase here. But, you know, as we're, you know, making sure that all technical difficulties are getting straightened away by the players, you know, for the overall series, you know, I think it's definitely, you know, favored towards 100 Thieves Academy. And, you know, we're going to have to get predictions and save them for another time, Prussian, because Chilling Walk and Joshi are ready to call the game. Take it away, gentlemen.
Much appreciated, Rafa. Thank you so much for walking us through that draft. Y'all brought up a lot of smart intel. Y'all mentioned about Demonte. However, Demonte could go on Tanner time. And Josh, I got to check in real quick while we're in this early game, man. How you feeling about those drafts, man? How you feeling about some of these characters that both these teams have chosen?
I mean, I gotta echo a little bit of what Prussian said earlier. You gotta see if Demonte's gonna pull the trap card and actually pull out that Tanner time today, man. This is a tough game for Syndra to be particularly relevant in. You got a lot of beef coming out. There's no cow, but you still have the Nautilus, the Hecarim, and Surdy's Gragas, who all have a ton of ability to withstand some of this burst. And I think it's a more natural composition for EGP to play. You see one R button pressed, you start pressing a whole lot more, and suddenly there's no 100 Thieves left on the field. So I'm definitely looking at this from 100 Thieves as they're going to try and get a lead early on, and unfortunately we haven't seen a lot of these tempo compositions have that great of an effect throughout this tournament.
Yeah, you know, I know you brought some little stat. It was like, you know, it was pretty low. I'll tell the audience that much. It was low when
about
they're trying to play
35.
fast. About 35, according to what Josh said. But one thing I do got to mention, though, Shiro on the Samira. You remember that card we pulled, Josh? When Shiro's on Samira, he gets to just eliminate 5 members on the Rift. And if he doesn't, he still gets style on him regardless. So hopefully Shiro gets to live up to his card that we managed to pull. But that's one thing that I do want to think about when we look at EGP, where they do got that raw factor, they do got that pop-up potential. Shiro's gonna be the big one of them.
Yeah, I just want to highlight this guy a little bit more, right? Because this champion, he is one of the few people who are still actually playing Samira. And, you know, there's a lot of conversation about whether or not this champion is still strong. And sometimes it doesn't matter. If you just have stronger players, you're going to be able to have some good trades. You're going to be able to have some good team fights. And I really like what they're doing. Now, that said, we're on pace for some kind of 3v3 in the bottom half of the map, as both Tomio and Kenvi top half clearing towards the bottom. We might be seeing some fights over this Scuttle Crab, and because Udyr clears so much more quickly than Hecarim, he might be able to generate a little bit of an experience advantage and have an extra level by the time we actually get this fight.
Yeah, one thing about Hecarim too, Josh, is that when it comes to his clear, he does have to sacrifice one camp when it comes to getting that bottom Scuttle. So my question now is between Aspect and Demonte about that lane priority. I know Prussian on the desk mentioned that Demonte, he understands why he picked that Syndra. You get that early lane priority, maybe that's going to be a big factor when it comes to battling out for that bottom crab.
Yeah, I really like this, man. Coming out from 100 Thieves, we already talked about how they're going to be getting a little bit of priority in the mid lane, potentially in the top lane, and surprisingly, very heavily in the bottom. And Tenacity, is he looking to dive this?
Nah, Tenacity, don't you do it, bro. He around the corner.
He's thinking about it.
Can be thinking about it, too.
Oh my god, then Tomio misses! Tomio doesn't know he's there!
Oh, the flash, the stun! Oh my god, yo, 100 Thieves open up with a kill on Aspect. Not even burning flash, but he wasn't even ready!
And look at this, they're not done. They get the kill in the mid lane, and they're transitioning it into not just the bottom lane Scuttle Crab that we were already speculating was going to go in their favor, but also the top lane one. Tenacity moves down, and because he crashed his wave earlier, he's going to be able to pick up this Scuttle Crab. So Tomio gets nothing. He's going to Willy Wonka, and he's getting absolutely nothing.
He needs to go down to the Chocolate River, get something back in, man. I'm not too sure what Tomio can do, but hopefully he can get some sweets back into his pocket. With this being said, though, let's take a look at his first blood, man. This is real smart.
Yeah, it Kenpy does not, in fact, flash in place. That is, in fact, just a visual bug coming through, but this is what we were talking about. Udyr clears so much faster than the Hecarim wall. It doesn't have the same kind of team fight presence. It means it gets first move. It has an opportunity to dictate the pace of play in ways that Hecarim often does not. And this is the kind of plan that I love to see coming out in the early game. I typically attribute this to teams like Counter Logic Gaming, but 100 Thieves Academy showing that they are just as willing to make these kind of crazy plays.
And this is a big core thing when we take a look at the early game, because both these teams play very similar. You know, they got mad aggressive junglers, they got solid top laners, they got explosive AD carries and engaged supports. The one thing that separates them, according to Prussian, when we were kind of talking and trading ideas, is that 100 Thieves are a little bit more experienced in that way. They kind of allow Kenpy to breathe and play the way he wants compared to Tomio, which EGP they definitely do, but Tomio just doesn't have that kind of lung capacity to make sure he can kind of look for these plays.
Yeah, well, and I think we have to be frank about this. Tomio spots him out. He's not going to get the same kind of easy gank. I've been rather critical of 100 Thieves for a while because we often look at them playing things like the Renekton Nidalee, or they'll pull up the early Nocturne. They'll even do things like the Kayn that need to make some of these early plays, and they haven't necessarily done it. And this is already like, I don't normally expect fighting around the 3-minute mark, especially in the way that we do. I typically look at teams as, this is a team that fights around 5 minutes. This is a team that fights around 10 minutes. And 100 Thieves, I'm trying to remember what the other team was, where they were saying like, they just fight fast. It's Noorg. That's the one we're thinking of, right? They have an idea of when they want to fight, and they play to that timer all the time. 100 Thieves showing that they're going to be able to hang with some of these other really strong amateur teams that have kind of had their number throughout a lot of these tournaments.
However, Josh, this is game one. Well, these teams need to find a good foothold in this best of one. I'm excited too, but we gotta calm our nerves, man. We can't build it we can't oversell it. You gotta chill, see what happens, because at the end of the day, they're gonna be playing against Evil Geniuses Academy again. 100 Thieves did lose to him last week. EG Projects might want to go for a civil war. Both these teams really want that rematch real soon, and even though we talk about these competent players, we have to see who can pull that trigger. Miss is gonna pull the trigger in the bottom lane against Poom and get a little bit of a trade, but it's all about that clutch factor. Who can pull off that trigger, who can start some of these fights, and then who can actually get that slug in.
Yeah, and I think, looking at these fights that we're potentially looking at, I don't want to look at EGP as a team who's just content to just play for the later game. It's something that they often do, and they do it rather successfully, but against this team that has already shown that they're going to start swinging at the 3-minute mark, they're not done, right? They're using the tempo advantage that you get of playing Udyr over Hecarim. They're trading that. They're transforming one kind of lead into another kind of lead. They have the tempo, now they cash it in. They get the material, you get the extra gold. And Tomio, I think he's got some kind of idea. It's like, my blue buff is probably not here anymore, because look at the amount of vision control that 100 Thieves have been able to generate. They're getting tempo, they're getting gold, they're getting information, and in every sense of the word, 100 Thieves are absolutely winning this game.
We'll say, though, EGP did opt in for a little bit of a gambit, right? Sacrificing a little bit of that early game because of the lanes that have been dictated, so that they can kind of scale later on. Sturdy, of course, going to make it out of those chains, so it's nice as the time down. But EG Prodigies right now, I think they're okay chopping some wood.
Yeah, we'll see how well they can actually do that. We see Tomio trying to find his first gank of the game, but it looks like he's just kind of getting zoned out by Damonte in the mid lane. But we might get a little bit more fighting, right? They don't want to go quietly into the night.
I like that Miss actually managed to stop Poom from going back in. Has to activate a stun. Exhaust comes through, getting real close as both supports are falling down to lethal Shiro not going to push on, nor does
Tomio?
Luger. Tomio's around the corner. He's looking for a dive. Only Luger's by himself. Yo, Shiro turns 6, by the way. Does activate Death Blossom, but they are going to back off.
Yeah, oh boy. Okay, so small lead off of that coming through, but just speculative lead coming in from EGP. They don't get any kills, but they do trade positively in summoners. Poom had to use his flash, and while he still has Hex Flash and can be aggressive, he doesn't have that defensive tool available. So I want to see Tomio make a repeat visit down here, especially seeing how much time Kenvi is spending on the top half of the map and how far behind in farm he's currently falling. Man, Aspect gotta be careful. He does have the flash, but so does Kenvi.
And even then, Kenvi does manage to pick up the Rift Herald too because of his top lane and mid lane priority. Now with the rest of 100 Thieves, are looking to advance forward on the bottom side quadrants. I think they want to get this red buff, man. What's up?
When did 100 Thieves get Dragon?
I don't know, bro. When did they take Dragon? It kind of slipped under us.
That has to have happened like during a replay or something, right? Because they've just been so far ahead that they're able to take everything. Like, look at this.
Okay.
Look at this difference. It can be running behind the turret again, and Tenacity's here as well.
Oh, man. Aspect is in the middle of 4 people. Shockwave ain't going to matter. And unfortunately, Aspect's going to be the main target for 100 Thieves as he falls down in the middle of 4.
Yo, okay, there was a game in LCS a while back, this is reminding me of, where you just, every single time you get the mid laner pushed in the other side, you just look to dive him, and look at how much pressure they're applying to Aspect. Remember that conversation we had, that Prussian and Mark were talking about? You look at EGP as Shiro, Tomio, some of the big names that we're going to look at to try and carry these games. Aspect, typically not going to be that kind of player to have a lot of pop-ups. He does it from time to time, but this is a way to attack it. If your carries don't have any people to support them and keep them relevant in the game, give them that extra power that they need to do damage, they're going to have a lot harder time, and I love this coming out from 100 Thieves. They're empowering Damonte, they're putting Aspect behind, and suddenly the Syndra that we had a lot of question marks about, looking really good.
Tomio's around the middle. In the mid lane, Miss is going to go into Onslaught of Shadows, whiffs on Tomio, and Damonte is actually going to be getting out scot-free. A little bit of a blunder from EGP, but regardless, I like that they are looking for some action.
They're looking for things. They try and echo exactly what it was 100 Thieves are doing, but this is kind of the question we were asking. If both teams are going to be playing the same way, if both teams have similar game plans, who's going to execute better? And right now, it's 100 Thieves making the plays, getting the leads, and now, because Tomio just used his ultimate, because they see him on the top side of the map, it's going to allow them to pick up the second dragon. And, Explosive Cask, I don't know if this is enough.
Maybe Tomio's route here. Tenacity does have the flash. Flash is under a turret. Tomio just going and swipes him for just a little bit. So 100 Thieves do have to burn some resources off of Tomio's aggression, but bottom side now, this is the second Drake for our 100 Thieves, and they're looking to take it.
Oh, Aspect has to flash again. Oh man, this is rough. This is just the result of what we saw earlier, right? It's because Aspect is so far behind. He's down like 30 CS, is opting to go with a bit more of a scaling build, doesn't have the Verdant Barrier, doesn't have as much magic resist as you might expect. He's going to be a little bit behind for a little while. He's not going to be able to take some of these fights, and it's going to translate into Damonte's ability to move first over and over. So, EGP, we're going to start having to look in other places. Where can they find their leads? Because they currently don't have a meaningful one anywhere on the map.
This is where I look at the way teams approach it, and there's always 2 ways. Do you approach the one who can pop off real hard, or do you approach the one who's one of the pillars of the teams? And I look at EG Prodigies, I think a lot of us can say Aspect is probably one of the safest pillars, one of the most consistent ones on the squad that doesn't really fall too far below and doesn't really make a lot of plays. But then this is where I wonder. I don't think EGP has been tackled in this way where you're targeting one of these main pillars of the squad, and that's where I'm actually curious to see how EGP will adapt when it comes to Aspect and his performance in this game.
Yeah. I've got a bit of an economics term for you here, Will. Right? Normally we talk about chess or fighting games, but comparative advantage. Right? Comparative advantage says that whatever you do more efficiently than the other guys is what you should do. Even if it means not propping up Aspect, you should try and figure out where you have an advantage. And the one place that we look at, right, is kind of Shiro versus Luger. And this isn't to discredit Luger. He's a fantastic AD carry, but he tends to play towards the later stages of the game, where Shiro is much more willing to fight now. And oh boy, Kenvi. Just flexing, man. Looking like Kangas.
Yeah. We'll have to see what we'll have to see about that, but right now, 100 Thieves, they want to try and fight over this blue buff. Smite, of course, is going to be over to Kevin because he is a level up, but that means that they want to see if they can tackle through. EG Prodigies,
Everybody's
I'm not
coming.
sure if you guys want to go for this fight. Magnetic Sword comes from
Everybody's
Puma as he does
coming.
turn sinks. We look at the backside, Demonte does get shockwaves. Right now, no one's gone down until finally Tomio falls to Poom. On the back end, Pume is going to be the one who has to flash away. Does manage to make out, but then Mist does take it through. Regardless, though, Josh, 100 Thieves, even without that scattered invade, they're still taking advantage, and now they still want to continue this dive on an Aspect as Heroes around the corner. At Aspect 6, that is going to be enough backup.
Oh.
Kenby still taking some jungle men. Don't be playing the Octopus, Kenby. Back out. Don't want to get punished here. All right, he is.
Dude, alright, getting rewarded with the Infernal Rift this time around, Will. Just having that blast cone to pop himself right on out. But this is kind of the difference that we're seeing. 100 Thieves know when they're looking to fight in this game. They know that they just want to take it. They can opt into a fight just because they are stronger. They're going to be able to come out ahead in these long fights. And this isn't super clean, right? This is not the front-to-back style team fight that I often look at as a hallmark of what some of these really good teams do. It's super scattered, super chaotic. But because 100 Thieves are confident that they're better, they're willing to go into these fights anyway. And even though it's not the cleanest thing, they trade a kill back at the end of the day, 100 Thieves are able to be rewarded for this confidence. And if they can continue to do that, this game is going to snowball for them, and that 35% going to rise by a couple points.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talk about those junglers in the other game, man. Take a look at Kenby. He's up a good amount of camps. He's also 2-on-2. Look at Tomio. He's doing good, but he is also 0-1-1, and I think this is where we take a look at the experience and the way both these teams play that early game. Remember, 100 Thieves, they let Kenby breathe, and this is a pretty good game that essentially shows that up. EG Prodigy, of course, they don't want to go down without a fight. Tomio wants some objectives. I know Tomio, he's a hungry player, he's a young, talented player. He also plays with a lot of fun, and as long as he has had fun, he's feeling confident, he can look for some of these plays that could work out.
And look at this overload of pressure coming in from EGP, right? They bring all 5 members to the top side, which is giving Tenacity a lot of opportunity to farm for free. Surdy needs to match him at some point, and they're going to be trading a couple of objectives, right? You give over the mid lane turret by 100 Thieves, you're going to be taking the bottom lane turret, and in exchange, EGP might come out a little bit ahead by grabbing this Rift Herald, but this is a means to an end, right? Just like taking those flashes earlier, it didn't matter that Poom didn't have his flash. They weren't able to do anything about it. They didn't punish that missing summoner spell, and this is another situation where now I'm looking at EGP. They have the tools to make some of these aggressive plays. They have the Rift Herald, and with the Dragon coming up in 30 seconds, they'll be able to reset and play for that. But what do they do with the tools that they've been given? If they have an advantage, they need to play to it.
I'm a little worried though, Josh. EG Prodigies did pay a lot of money for that Rift Herald. Tenacity picked up a lot of money for himself, just taking that bottom outer turret and getting some waves for himself too. So we'll see if that game pays off for EG Prodigies. But 100 Thieves, all 5 people are sitting around the mid lane. They want to get this sell point, man.
Oh. Well, 100 Thieves, Syndra here first. I don't like Syndra very much as a champion, but this is something she's incredible at. If you get to the objective first, you deny all of these choke points, and EGP a little bit scattered. Look how far away Aspect is from the rest of the team. It's going to take him a while to actually draw these battle lines, and maybe Syria in the fight can find something.
Poom's going in! He's found Shiro already! Everyone's looking to Pile Dog on top of him. Shiro still barely alive, but he does fall down to Kenby. EG Prodigies are already scattered as Demonte assassinates Mist off the rift. Luger's gonna come in to add the cherry on top of that cake. It's nasty. He wants to eat some of that cake too. Sturdy has to use that explosive, has to back away. But 100 Thieves off Puma and that flank managed to get themselves a lot of kills and that dragon.
That's the other thing Syndra does, Will. Whenever you have a team that isn't all together, you're able to get these long-range stuns and get fights started. But Poom and Surdy both looking for these flanks. Hey, what did we say? These teams play similarly. They're trying to do similar things. It's all about executing on them better. And Poom is doing that in spades. They get the dragon. That puts them 1 away from Infernal Soul. They get a bunch of kills. They didn't trade anything back for it at all. And EGP, they still have time, but they need to get some items onto Shiro. They need to get some items onto Aspect. And this is when these champions are at their weakest. They need more time, and I don't think 100 Thieves is going to give it to them, because just look at how beautiful this really is. You find Shiro. He's the one guy who's going to be doing meaningful damage throughout this entire fight. You kill him first, and suddenly there is nothing left on the side of 100 Thieves. You won't have any way to kill any of these low members, and wisely, Kenby and Poom know they aren't needed for the rest of the fight. They're going to back away and just say, hey, we're going to start hitting this dragon. If you need us, I'll be close. Come to us. You call me.
Yeah, it sucks too, because you look at Aspect, right? The man's been bullied early on from a lot of the 100 Thieves crew, and that's what made him build a little bit more defensive, as you mentioned early on. It's also one of the reasons why that shockwave didn't hit real hard, but I want to kind of shine a little bit on the similarities of these teams. You said that both these teams kind of played the same way. A lot of these storylines are pretty much the same way too.
Not yours, Tomio.
Yo, can be. All right, cool.
Okay,
Tomio has to take it away
it
from
is
Aspect.
his.
It is his, unfortunately, but we look at both these teams, Josh. EG Prodigies are essentially in the same boat as many of the 3 players on 100 Thieves on the other side were last year. Had 100 Thieves next. EG Prodigies, the amateur team, being built up by the Evil Geniuses squad. And it's really cool to see these storylines come through. We've got some young blood person against some, I guess, middle blood from 100 Thieves Academy, and that's where I think the experience is right now paying off for the 100 Thieves squad right now in this game 1 as they want to go on Aspect.
100 Thieves boomers already?
They're not boomers. They're not. They're I would say they're millennials. You know, that's
Millennials? Well, hold on.
Yeah.
I think it's Gen X, right?
Is it Gen X?
Gen-
I'm not too sure.
Gen Y? Gen Y.
Gen Y. Is it Gen
What
Y?
are our parents' generation?
I don't know. I think the baby boomers? Too many
No,
generations.
they're not boomers. We've already been over this. Anyway,
Oh,
we'll get
okay.
back to that. We'll figure it out. We'll do some Googling between games. Because right now, remember that Rift Herald that we were talking about a couple minutes ago?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It might finally get a crash. You might finally see an opportunity for EGP
Hopefully.
to get something, but this is more like, hey guys, we lost most of our windows to do anything in this Rift Herald. This is the last place that we can do it and at least equalize a little bit on some of the gold that they had to trade in order to pick this up in the first place. But it's not necessarily going to be giving them a big advantage. Tenacity is already here, and it's unclear if this structure is even going to go down at all. So we talked about who's going to be doing things better, who's going to be able to play more aggressively. Again, 100 Thieves coming out a little bit ahead because they're willing to pull the trigger faster.
It's all about those nerves. Josh, who can land that first punch? Of course, 100 Thieves didn't manage to land the first punch, but remember, this is a best of 5, man. EG Prodigies can throw some first punches in this second game, too, as well. But I'm excited to see what Shiro can do, man. We have to wait and see if this guy can actually pop off some of these fights. He, of course, hasn't had the option to do so. 100 Thieves is doing a good job punishing and covering those options of what Shiro can do. Well, I think once EGP can find their good footing, they definitely can. But still, man, they're just taking all these camps away from Tomio. They're making sure that Tomio doesn't get the farm. They are going to be on the bot side. They are trying to tackle Tenacity. Tomio and Sturdy trying to go for a 1 versus 2, but Tenacity, a big boy. Yo, Tenacity's a big boy. I don't know if Tenacity can actually live through this. Okay, he does fall down just barely with Tomio. He has to walk away with some blood.
They don't do any damage, Will. It takes them
tried.
forever.
They do.
They succeeded.
It takes
You know,
a
let's
lot,
give them credit.
yeah.
They did succeed at taking down Tenacity, but it took them a long time. And now we ask, what are they going to trade back? It looks like this mid lane turret. They get the kill, and ooh, okay,
Missed.
it's missed. Okay.
I don't know if that. Does actually the lock through the Iron Solari. Was questioning that hook that he threw at Demonte, but he's going to walk away and reset for himself. But the Dragon's up in the next minute, Josh, and if 100 Thieves manage to take this Dragon 21 minutes in, it could be doomed for the EG Prodigies team.
Yeah, so now we got to take stock of how powerful everyone is. What item completions are they actually going to make? You see Kenvi already on 2 items. Tomio hasn't yet completed his second just quite yet. Similar story up in the top lane. Tenacity has his second completed item in the Steric, so he's going to be a lot harder to kill than someone like Surdy is.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I do want to highlight the fact that Shiro, he's going with the Gale Force on this champion. I really like this entire idea. If you're already losing, you gotta build damage as bad as it feels, because if you can't do the damage to kill people, you can't do anything. You don't want to just lose slower, and so we'll see if he can find that reset, maybe pop off. There's still opportunities for EGP in this fight, and they are here in time, so they aren't just forced out of these choke points by Demonte.
100 Thieves have a lot of control, trying to see if they can find a stun on a Sturdy, but they don't.
Okay,
Shiro's
cool.
now coming back in. Dragon has gonna start. Yeah,
Tenacity.
on the flank. Right now,
big.
both a stalemate, both looking at each other, nothing being pulled. Stun lands on a Sturdy, not going to trigger, but this is actually going to trigger. We take a look at both sides. Sturdy is going to be real low. Activates the ultimate, but it's going to knock Demonte away. Now Tenacity on the backside against Mist. We take a look at the top side. The Puma is going in with a gigantic ultimate, that Magic Storm, and we take a look at 100 Thieves. They are now trying to clean sweep as Shiro's already fallen down off the map. EG Prodigies, they are scattered. They got to walk away. Aspect, you are by yourself against many members, and that's going to be a near clean ace on the side of 100 Thieves.
Yeah, wow, this is insane. The slow positional team fighting coming out from 100 Thieves is incredible. They have an advantage. They're slightly earlier. They're able to control these chokes, and they're going to reward themselves with a team fight. The Infernal Soul and the Baron's left, and Tomio, the only person alive at the end of that. And just watching 100 Thieves, they were so aggressively confident earlier, but now they've transitioned it into a patience will, and it is incredible to see them showcase multiple styles in a single game.
Yeah. That refinement has been the one thing 100 Thieves has over EG Prodigies. That's why they have that experience in Academy. That's why it's showing off here. And you take a look at this discipline.
Look how slow this is.
Exactly. They're both fighting and stalemating, but that Sky of the Week starts everything off along with Kenby, too.
Yeah, they're able to push it out, right? They have so many nuke choke points because of the Infernal Rift that they want to push people around. They have Poom on a flank, they have Tenacity on a flank because they know it's going to be too hard for the members of EGP to try and dive through Kenby, try and get to both of the backliners and Luger and Demonte. And by slowly maneuvering and pushing EGP into these chokes, they can drive a wedge right through the middle of it, separate it into multiple fights where all of the 100 Thieves members are going to be individually stronger than their counterparts. And now it's going to be really hard for EGP to try and bring this one back. Down Infernal Soul, down Baron, and this is what they need to try.
They do find a catch on Demonte. He's going to go golden. Shockwave is going to whiff from Aspect. That's a big ultimate. EG Prodigy, you have to get the heck out of here. Madagaskar Storm doesn't land on anyone. Tomio is going to see if he can play interference, but we take a look at that Scatter Week. That was huge. Nasty's in the back line. Luger in the back line, too. Only Shiro by himself. Certainly trying to play defense, but he's not going to protect the quarterback. And 100 Thieves, they are blitzing EG Prodigies in the middle of the dang base right now, Josh. EG Prodigies, they have to peace out. And same thing with 100 Thieves.
They got one.
Shut down. They got one off of a turret shot on the Luger. A little bit of a mistake, but regardless, 100 Thieves, they still have that momentum.
It looked like it might have been a blunder, Will, but it was just a trap being laid by 100 Thieves. It's an elaborate ruse.
Yep.
A bait.
Decoy.
And now, yeah, it's a decoy. There's lots of things. You know, they all mean the same thing. They've been tricked, bamboozled, and all that other stuff the red versus blue like to talk about. But they pick up a couple more turrets. They're rewarding themselves with a lot of gold. And we mentioned a couple times, EGP, they have time to scale into this game. They might have an opportunity, but when you're down to 11,000 gold at this point in the game, when you don't have the item completions, when you don't have a way to kill any of these members, it doesn't just quite matter. And Demonte, he's so safe with this stopwatch that it doesn't even matter if you're able to find him isolated, because he can just buy time and get to the safety of the rest of his team.
Yeah, of course the Scatter Week starts off everything under the turret too. This is what triggers everyone from 100 Thieves to tackle down the back line. Shiro, of course, and Aspect falls down too. Real unfortunate because we look at EGP and they're looking for some of these picks, they're looking for some of these catches, and credits to them. But when I watch these two teams, Josh, it's like both these guys are playing the same character. It's just 100 Thieves are just have a little more mastery in the way they want to play.
Yeah, wow. It's crazy to me, like watching this difference in game one, right? Because both of these teams. Right, we are pretty far into this tournament. There were 16 teams at the beginning of this. This is top 8, top 6?
Top 6 now, yep.
Yeah, top 6.
Top 8 was yesterday, yep.
Yeah, so they're doing quite well for themselves, and they've proven that they are able to hang with and be a lot of the other Academy teams. I was expecting this to be 100 Thieves' favorite, to be entirely honest, right? I think they've been able to execute a little bit better throughout most of the season. They're a bit more aggressive. I did not think it would be this one-sided.
I mean, it's just the way that EGP plays too, man. Like, when you both play the same way, whoever executes just kind of takes it by leaps and bounds, and you can kind of just show, it's just what happens when both teams kind of know what they both want to look for. 100 Thieves just a little bit faster, they have better setup, small little things just kind of change everything. If EG Prodigies played a different kind of game, right, if they played for early aggression, or if they played for high tempo, or if they played for sturdy on the top side, the game could be flip-flopped, but this is like a game that just encapsulates how both these teams enjoy playing, and it's kind of showing.
Yeah. But we are running into one of the roadblocks that 100 Thieves are kind of running into. Yes, they have these really good, more chaotic fights. They are able to take a lot of these fights because they're simply so far ahead. As Kenby might be caught, but he's a fast bear.
He is a fast bear. Grizzly bear walking away. Tomio's on the horse trying to see if he can catch up to the bear. A lot of people are trying to see if they can tackle Kenby right now, but EG Prodigies, unfortunately, that bear does not want to get caught down by a net. They're going to have to back off and recuperate their losses.
Yeah. But we are highlighting, again, something that 100 Thieves team isn't actually that good at. They're not actually that good at diving under these turrets. They're not that good at a lot of these sieges, right? They want to find ways to pull EGP out of the base. And crucially, we have the Elder Dragon spawning in a minute and a half. And 100 Thieves, you know, if EGP just gives it over, 100 Thieves will take it. They're like, yeah, okay, if you just want to give us the best team fighting tool in the entire game, yeah, well, that's fine. But instead, what I'm expecting to see happen, they're going to start building up vision control in this bottom quadrant of the jungle. And just forcing EGP to face check every brush in order to try and contest it in the next minute or so. And already, it's a whole minute before the dragon even spawns. And look how many members 100 Thieves are already bringing to do exactly that.
That's what I'm saying. 100 Thieves is just kind of on here first. EG Pride's course. They understand that this is basically their last chance in this game. They want to potentially get an advantage back on the sides. Because remember, Elder Drake is kind of like a coin flip. You get it. It swings a lot of these fights back over.
Oh, can be.
They don't want to. Yeah, I'm like EGP. I'm like, no. I don't want to deal with Kenvi and Poom face checking into me. A little dangerous. If it was the Mate, though, yeah, I think I take that 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. But look at the damage Aspect is actually doing, right? Void Staff second. Does a lot of damage to these guys.
Yeah.
You know,
Smart,
does
I think,
does a lot.
Both these teams, though, still fighting over the mid lane. Elder Drake is coming up in 15 seconds at this point. Remember, 100 Thieves actually don't need this Elder Drake to actually end the game. Remember that. They just want to use it as a place to fight. Of course, if they get it for free, might as well. EGP, they have to they're stuck in a catch-22 where they have to take this Elder Drake or otherwise they don't have a chance.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised that 100 Thieves gave over so much space, right? They did a good job at clearing out a lot of the vision, but they're letting EGP walk into it. And so, they don't see the Elder Dragon, they don't see the HP, Tenacity and Poom, they got this flank. What do EGP want to do? They have to do something.
Okay, Tenacity going in. Shorty just gets deleted off the top side!
He's just dead!
That's it! That's it! It's so hard for EGP to try and go in unless Tomio can find something else back in. But Tenacity and Poom are just playing solid interference. Elder Drake's not going to get picked up as now this is where the 100 Thieves look to secure and add that cherry on the cake. Shiro going to be the one taken down at the end, and that's going to be a pretty fast game for 100 Thieves as they're knocking down that base.
This was one of the cleanest games of League of Legends I have seen in the amateur and academy scene pretty much this entire season, Will. This was textbook by 100 Thieves. They had a plan at the very beginning of how they wanted to pad. They had a plan in order to actually take all these objectives. They knew what they were looking to do, and they executed on it every step of the way. And if this is the kind of 100 Thieves Academy that we're going to be seeing, man, these guys are looking good. The evolution of what this team was just last year. Sorry, I choked a little bit. But 100 Thieves aren't doing that. They're going to just take this clean sweep of this first game. Not even close. Give me more of this, Will. This is what I signed up for.
That was a Brevi game, my man. That was a banger. And
You're hurting me.
I'm excited. You know what? I'm going to say it. That was a concise and clean game plan, as you said. And I'm going to say it again. That was a Brevi game from 100 Thieves Academy because they put on a show. Now, this is where I kind of wonder for EG Prodigies, and what else do they have in that playbook? You know, they got to bring out the Flim Flams, the ShamWows, the Bamboozles, and all these little plays of what they can throw back in, because it just looks like when EGP is playing the same game plan as 100 Thieves, is just a little bit weaker.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we saw highlighted here was the difference in having a plan to fight earlier than your opponents already, right? Yeah. If you know you want to fight at 10 minutes, you can't be opting into these fights at 5 minutes. But the thing is, EGP didn't even opt out of these fights. No. They didn't handshake to go for any of these. It was just 100 Thieves saying, you can't not be here. Your mid laner can't not be under turret at this point, and we're just going to punish the things that we know players have to do. Because could you imagine being Aspect? You know, you hear your top laner say, hey, my top laner's not here. You see the jungler having no idea. It's like, oh, he's probably at this bot lane crap. Mm-hmm. You're not expecting to
No.
Like, what do you do there? I can't fault Aspect at all for that, and that's why I'm so excited to praise 100 Thieves.
Yeah, they played a really smart game plan. They tackled, again, one of the pillars on EG Prodigies. Hopefully they can make sure Aspect is doing okay after that game 1. But we'll have to see what happens in game 2, Josh, because I'm excited. For everyone else out there, go out and take a break, get some popcorn ready, because hopefully this game's going to be a banger one, and I can already feel it, Josh. We'll be right back.